John, I know that you're watching us up there, so I'm going to be very careful what I say since you've left Earth and have joined your buddies in heaven. But in every serious way that I could put it, John Jockusch is the kind of guy that you want on your side.
He's the essence of a gentleman.
I thought he was always a very fine gentleman.
Always was courteous to everybody he met.
He had wonderful qualities of being kind and nice to people.
He loved being in conversation with others. He was always thinking of others.
He saw the potential in people. He took action. He was involved.
When he gets into something, he gives you all he's got.
He was my mentor in a professional way. With John, though, he's so engaging and he's so personable that soon enough that became a friendship. The one thing I think I can say about him is, even though he was born during World War I mean, you would think, well, somebody that many generations away from me, how much in common could you really have with that person? Well, the truth is, a lot. He had this amazing ability to engage people and find out their interests.
I'll miss the most about that little laugh of his. And even when you're telling him no, he'll say, I can't do it like him, but I always was prepared. You know, John, I will tell you that I can't help you with this campaign. And he would listen to you, listen to you, listen to you. And he said, well, I'm really glad you're doing all those things. So if you're doing all those things, you would know that this wouldn't be that much more.
One of my favorite memories is when we were remodeling the sanctuary in 2013, and we were going to take down a wall that was in front of this window and had been there for a long time for a particular reason, and it was time to take it down so that we could look outside through the window that was already there. And the contractor called me late one Thursday afternoon and said, I have some bad news. I don't think we can get the cross off the wall without it falling apart. And John Jockusch's wife had been one of the creators of the cross, literally, and she had died. And so I needed to be able to tell him that we may not be able to save the cross. And if we did, it was going to take extreme measures. And so I asked him to come up to the sanctuary one afternoon late, and we sat down and I began to tell him what was going to have to happen with this cross in order to save it. And he didn't even let me finish. And he said, just stop. He said, you know what? Sue would love what is going on in this church. And when we gave something and when we give something to the church, it's to the glory of God with no strings attached. So you do not need to go to one extra effort to try to save a cross that was needed for the time that it was needed. You need to do whatever it takes to get the cross off the wall so the wall can come down and we can begin this new chapter in the life of the church. And so that's just one of many examples of how John taught with his very life.
What I just remember was being at his granddaughter's wedding in Houston, Shaylin, and I believe that was 11 years ago. And when it was time for the father-daughter dance, he filled in for his son Bill. And so he's dancing on the dance floor and everyone's gathered around, and she has the beautiful Cinderella style ball gown, wedding gown on, and they're waltzing around, sailing around on the floor. And here he is, 89 years old, and just the happy look on his face.
Sue was John's wife, of course, for many, many years. I know they were married over 50 years. I don't know for sure how many. But Sue died in 2009, and John was so in love with Sue that he decided he wanted to put this memorial garden in for Sue. It's here for everybody to remember John and Sue. And John had set up a fund to perpetually keep this thing beautiful, which I think is just delightful.
He truly loved his Sue, his wife Sue. She passed away years before, but still years and years later, anytime the conversation would turn to talking about Sue, his eyes would just well up with tears. He missed her so much. He loved her, and he just cherished her.
I've known Mr. Jockusch for about 65 years now. They were longtime family friends, and we met at Trinity Episcopal Church, and then we moved over with their family over to St. David's Episcopal Church. As the property committee chairman, I always was a little hesitant about coming before the advisory board meeting and asking for money, because he was always the one that was questioning him whether we needed to actually spend that money. So he was keeping everybody on his toes, on their toes.
John was a community servant. He served his God, his family, and his community well. And Proverbs 3:27 says, "Honor those to whom honor is due." And today at this annual banquet, we are honoring a great man, John Seeley Jockusch.